Hey, this is Jack, and this video is the #1 way that you are hurting yourself in relationship. Thanks for joining us for this video. I'd love for you to be here for future videos, so if you haven't, just go ahead, click subscribe, go on and join us and be part of this journey. There's an amazing community that's developing here. I've been overwhelmed in the most positive of ways about how this community has grown and the kind of questions and comments and engagement that we get here. It's phenomenal. So thank you all for being part of it. We recently passed 10,000, so thank you all for being part of that subscription. If you are, if you're not, come on, join us, be part of it. But I just want to say I appreciate you. I appreciate you all for your watching, the time and energy and commitment that you put into questions, the things that you're willing to hear from me and receive from me. It's super awesome. It's changed my life. So thank you. Super appreciate it. So what's the #1 way that you might be hurting yourself? And I'm going to get right into it. The #1 way that you might be hurting yourself is actually in your idea of what relationship is. In this video, I want to sort of throw something down that might seem kind of radical to you, is that you might know less about relationship than you think you do, and that your idea about what a relationship is or needs to be may be the very thing that is stopping you from allowing relationship to teach you what it needs to teach you. Now, this doesn't mean you won't have hopes and desires in relationship. We all probably do, and those all probably unfold over time. When you're in relationship with someone, you might notice you've got certain ideas or fantasies about what it could be or where it could go. This invitation in this video is to really treat your relationship as path. You might have heard this expression, relationship as path. And what that really means is you allow your relationship over time to grow you. And hopefully you find someone that wants to grow as well. And you allow, in the same way that Michelangelo kind of chiseled the statue of David to be revealed, you allow relationship to reveal you. You allow relationship to chisel you and work you, just like a river that's working its way, and the kind of rocks and pebbles that smooth in the contact with the river. You allow relationship to smooth your edges. You allow it to integrate you. You allow it to show you where you are stuck and triggered and need healing. That is the advantage of relationship as path. And oftentimes where we hurt ourselves and get in the way is we think that a relationship needs to look a certain way. So as a personal example, I always thought that relationship for me needed to be like a power couple. That what I was looking for was to be one half of a power couple that did certain things in the world and that looked a certain way and that had a certain influence in a community and were revered in certain ways. And it had me orient to people who could certainly supposedly be part of a supposed power couple, but actually weren't really feeding my soul, or that there was another kind of connection at a heart level that wasn't really as present in the relationship. And it wasn't a fast path to finding the kind of soul mateness that I have now and that I want for you. So that's my idea of relationship. You might have your own ideas that, a relationship needs to look a certain way in terms of how romantic it is, or the kinds of things that he's going to say or give you, or the way that you're going to feel. If you just want one simple idea that's going to give you a lot more freedom in relationship, is to free yourself that it has to feel a certain way. That probably, if it's a real relationship, you're going to have all sorts of feelings. Some days you'll feel euphoric. Some days you'll feel despondent. Other days you'll feel happy. Some days you'll feel sad. Some days you'll feel angry. It's like the whole thing, right? The whole enchilada, the whole richness of a relationship is actually the vibrancy in its diversity, not that it's like a dominant experience. So many of us in some ways kind of has been tarnished by Hollywood, right? The Hollywood view of relationship is that it's gonna kind of feel a certain way. The freedom is to actually have a whole set of feelings going on and still want to show up and still want to be committed and still want to walk the path with someone. If you're constantly in this evaluation of, is this a good relationship? Do I feel good? You might be missing the point that actually a mature relationship is, a lot of it is about the commitment to show up even in the times when it's really tough or it's really rocky, or you don't even know what's being called for you. That's like relationship that's really putting you in the crucible of your own development, is when you don't know what you're meant to be doing. Right? Where you hit a problem that you can't solve. Maybe you're super successful in your career. Maybe you've heard personal development gurus say there's no problem that can't be solved. Right? That sort of reality isn't the humility and curiosity and mystery that probably, if you want a mature and conscious relationship, is going to help you. Right? There may be problems that you don't know how to solve. You don't even know how to define the problem. You might hit a snag that you're like, I know I'm hitting my head against something. I have no idea why. That's a cool place to be in relationship, because now you're growing. Now life is working you and it's relaxing your sense of, I've got it all under control. I know what's going on. I know which kind of partner is good for me. Now, none of this is to disavow that if there are certain feelings that you're like, your deep intuition is, this isn't my person, or this is a narcissist, or this person's abusing me. None of this is to disavow that. Right? Clearly, there are some systemic feedbacks that you can be getting that this isn't the path you want to walk with someone. But I'm saying when it does come to the right person to walk the path with, you might want to walk that path as if you have no idea about how that path looks, what tools you're going to need, which way up the mountain you're going to go, who you're going to become, who they're going to become, who you as a couple are going to become. That you drop the expectations, you drop the fantasies, and it actually allows you to be with someone. In another way of saying that is that real intimacy requires a real lack of expectations, right? If you're in the, oh, he's going to say this, I'm going to think that, he's going to look this way, he's going to talk to me here, I'm going to feel this. It's kind of like a poor Hollywood script that it's not what you really want, right? We all know the kind of Hollywood script of a rom-com, and it's probably not as interesting as the real life rom-com that can unfold in you if you don't really know what you're doing and you drop your expectations and your fantasies that you should know what you're doing or that you should know how it looks, right? It's kind of saying when you get real, you drop the scripts. It's a bit like on a bike. You take those stabilizers off, right? The stabilizers for most of us are our fixedness and our ideas about how it needs to look. And if we drop those, then we can be in a real relationship with someone where we are charting a course into the unknown, because we don't really know. We might know we have commitment to one another. We might know there are certain things we want to cultivate in our relationship. There might be certain values we want to cultivate. There might be certain things we want to do or play together. Awesome. But the sense of, I know what a relationship is, if you really knew, you would probably have it, right? And I don't mean to say that to sound harsh, but it's like there's this kind of humility when you're like, I don't know how to give up smoking because I haven't. I don't know how to build a business because I haven't. I don't know how to build a conscious relationship because I haven't. And if you can get to that humility and drop the expectations, because the expectations is often what creates the frustration in relationship, right? Is that you are doing a thing that I didn't expect you to do, all right? Or we are showing up in a way, or we are hitting problems that I didn't foresee. That, if you can't be with that, good luck finding a committed relationship. Because for most of us, if we're doing our work, there's going to be a lot that comes up in our relationships, a lot that we need to heal, a lot that we need to see, a lot that we don't understand. And it's the humility to notice this surpasses my understanding. I want to understand it, but I don't yet. That is actually the fuel to the real relationship unfolding. So I hope you're getting the flavor of this. Now, here's one way, just practically speaking, that this can manifest is when people think they have a type. Right? And really, their type might be an unconscious projection of their parent, particularly possibly of the parent of the opposite sex. Right? That's one thing that can happen. So you might be been going around unconsciously looking for mum and dad. And if that's been happening, no need to be hard on yourself. We're all susceptible to that. I've been there and done that. And it might show up in surprising ways where you're like, well, this person is nothing like my father or nothing like my mother. But actually, when you look at it from an archetypical level, right, the kind of energies that they embody, the way that they process reality, they may be very similar. It's just on the surface, one might be an astrophysicist and one might be a librarian or, a performance dancer. But actually the archetypical energies may be that you have an unconscious attraction to people that somehow archetypically at the kind of patterns level represent or look like your parents. So that can be really humbling, right? Certainly been there. Notice that archetypically there's a certain type of woman that's very similar to my mom that I would attract and have a relationship with, and had never even appreciated that. And seeing that was really good for me, and to notice like, okay, I'm actually going to stop doing that. I'm just going to stop doing that unconsciously. And I'm going to be more conscious about noticing where my attractions are. Another classic form of unconscious attraction is people get attracted to chemistry. And they're like, oh, wow, we have great chemistry, therefore we're going to have a great relationship. It doesn't tend to work like that, right? You want chemistry, but there's so many other factors of real compatibility that go into a real relationship. So you might have to drop the idea that you actually know what real compatibility looks like, right? So many times people end up in a kind of long-term good relationship with someone, they're like, he wasn't my type. He was different than all the other guys. That's the kind of thing that you might want to be open to. Not that you need to consciously go and make it happen, but just be open to like, if I know what my type is, but I keep kind of having these failed relationships, what do I really know? Like, what do I really know? Because this type isn't kind of working for me. So maybe you need to relax the script. I can remember At some point in my 20s, I went to Skiros, which is it's a cool place. It's a Greek island. You know, you kind of fly into Athens and you take like 2 or 3 ferries. It's very remote, and maybe you've been there, maybe you have heard of it. And they run personal development holidays, and it was a really cool thing at the time. It really opened my eyes to some things. But I remember being on the bus on the ferry, and I'm writing down this kind of shopping list requirements in my partner, and I was comparing my then girlfriend to this list, and a lot up in my head about this of like, oh, you know, kind of, oh yeah, we match in this way, we don't match in this way. And a lot of that list was really my self-idealization, right? It was the qualities that I appreciated or aspired to in myself projected upon a partner. Who wants to be that partner? Do you want to be someone's self-idealized shopping list? Does that sound fun to you? Does that sound like a free place to operate from in relationship? That you're living up to someone's laundry list of standards, of unmetabolized values and expectations they have on themselves? I don't think so, but a lot of us are doing that. I certainly used to do that, and maybe you still do that. Maybe you have this list of like, he's going to show up in this way. He's going to be this level of financially secure. He's going to have this kind of career. He's going to connect with me in these ways. He's going to want to travel with me like this. And it's sort of like, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Has that worked for you? Maybe you need to open up to something else. Because maybe at a soulmate level, there's things that you're going to combine with someone that are vectors of reality that you haven't even considered. That is like, it makes sense on a soul level. But if you start to look at it purely on this kind of sort of day-to-day practical, how do our careers align, you're just going to miss it. It's just, or maybe a better way of even saying that is you can have all the alignment in the world at this kind of pragmatic service level, but if your souls don't want to do business, right? If your souls don't want to play well together, this is irrelevant. Right? Now, it could be that your souls want to play together and a lot of these things line up, right? That's great, you know? And like in my own relationship, like we both value family, we both love to travel, we both love transformation and personal growth, we both love people, we both love going to the movies, we both love romance and adventure and surprise and walking in nature and breathing and being and, you know, so many things. But also like our souls want to play together, and sometimes our souls want to play together even when we don't play well. That's what you kind of want to be inspired by, I think, rather than I'm going to do this sort of shopping list. So he matches all these things, but you look at it and you're like, I don't really even like it when we hang out. Like we have to always do things because actually just being together and being in contact or being, you know, connected or conversational or physical or just liking the company we keep, that's not available. So we have to work really hard. You don't want to be with someone where the day-to-dayness of just sitting and being with each other is really hard, because I think probably if it's a real relationship, there's already going to be enough stuff that's hard that you want to work on, right? So it's kind of reinterpreting what you're looking for. And if you took one thing and nothing else from this video, it's just maybe be open to a flavor that you haven't been open to, right? When people start to appreciate cheese or wine, there may be flavors that initially you're like, I'm not really into that. But over time, your palate matures and you attune and habituate and something else becomes possible, right? A lot of people, they meet their person and maybe they know, maybe they get that very clear knowing. Sometimes also they're like, maybe actually I wasn't super attracted to this person. I wasn't just arrested in my being drawn to them. Because sometimes that arresting drawing to someone is a kind of unconscious attraction and it plays out, it's hot, it's sparky, and then 2 months later you're like, what was I even thinking and doing? That's the kind of dropping the fantasy and the expectation. It's dropping the sense that you know what it will feel like. It's dropping the sense that it has to feel a certain way. It's dropping the sense that there is a shopping list, that there are requirements, that there are standards, that they're going to meet me in these ways. It's sort of like bigger than that. You know, if you could plot that all out on a map, it's like you're losing the mysteriousness of life, of the soul, of why you're drawn to create a long-term partnership with someone, right? And that might be that some of the reasons you create that long-term partnership, you don't even know, right? You don't even know what life has in store, why life wants that to happen, why the universe is converging on those two people doing something, creating something, being something together. So this is an invitation to sobriety, right? I use this word sobriety a lot. It doesn't have anything to do with, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's sobriety in the sense of you can see clearly when you drop the fantasy and the expectation, right? Krishnamurti, the spiritual teacher, said, the reason it's easier for me is I don't mind which way it goes, right? So relationship can be a little easier if you don't mind which way it goes, if you can be really open to seeing, well, what is meant to happen between us? What is here for us? Now, The danger that I see with this is some people get into this, well, I just want to see and I'm just going to let it unfold. And they have basically like ongoing short, they're kind of like serial monogamists if they're monogamous. This kind of like, yeah, I'm sort of open and I see how it unfolds and okay, and then, ooh, and I'm on to the next person, I see how it unfolds. And there's kind of a lack of sobriety in terms of really being grounded in your own life, kind of taking your time, really discerning. And sometimes there can be a love of the, oh, what do we have to learn together? Versus the, is this my person? And I'm saying this because a lot of you here want to have committed partnership, right? You're actually ready and available for something real and long-term to show up. And if that's your question, you may have to go through some relationships where it's about learning with someone, right? Your souls are attracted. Your soul wants to learn something with another soul. You're attracted. The relationship constellates around that learning. When that learning is mostly or somewhat complete, the relationship kind of fades, right? The kind of karmic relationship, as we call it, versus this sort of soulmate or twin flame relationship where it's not really around learning a particular lesson. It's more of a kind of long-term game that we're going to be together. And if that's what you want, yep, you might have to do some of this until certain things kind of integrate and clarify in your soul. But then the flavor that this has may be very different than the flavors of how you've related before, right? Let's say, for example, let me even take something personal. There may be ways that in the past, in certain relationships, I had the ability to keep people at a certain kind of distance because they didn't need to come close in certain ways, or they weren't noticing how open I was in my heart in certain ways. They're just different vectors of reality that weren't getting tracked. So you could have a relationship where there are these deeper things in you that if you were really doing your work and looking at it, it's like, hey, you're not fully showing up there, or you're not fully bringing your heart, or you're not fully bringing your commitment, but you kind of get away with it, right? That's not what you really want, I think, in a long-term soul partnership relationship, is that you actually want someone that is going to bring those things to the surface for you, where you're actually going to do the real work, right? And whether the real work is opening your heart, whether the real work is being committed and dealing with the boredom and frustration of that, whether the real work is loving yourself, right? And actually there's a relationship that's going to invite you to love yourself in ways that you haven't, whether it's about actually depending on people, right, and creating healthy dependency, and maybe you had a difficult time with that in the past, maybe the dependencies you had weren't healthy, or they were codependent. It's those kind of things that the right partnership might offer you the ability to really work at over the long term. And so it just might feel different. It might feel different than anything that you've known. So, you know, I'm not wanting to be a broken record here. I'm just inviting that sense of like, you may not, if you drop the fantasy, drop the script, drop the dropping list, drop the shopping list. If you drop all those things, you've now got this sort of blank canvas where you and someone can really be free to notice and discern what is actually here, free to be ourselves, free to create together. That's the kind of real freedom. You know, when I talk to people about real love, real freedom, real relationship, that is part of what I'm trying to talk to, is that freedom to actually let the path flow with someone rather than, oh, it needs to look a certain way, you know, or my first marriage looked this way and I'm trying to recreate it, or my parents had this kind of relationship and I'm trying to recreate it. By all means, take what is good from other people's relationships, but a real relationship has a uniqueness to its unfolding, just like a real human being has a uniqueness to their unfolding. And it's that kind of unknowingness of the uniqueness that I want to encourage you to be open to and to notice when it occurs. If you really want a soulmate relationship and you're a woman looking for that in a man and you haven't taken my free webinar, I really want to encourage you to take it. Just click the link below this video, find a time that works for you in your time zone. It's some of the best teaching material that me and my teaching partner Clayton have put out. I get lots of emails most weeks about people finding this a really impactful webinar. So I would love for it to be impactful in your own life. Click the link, find a time that works for you. Hey, if you haven't, come on, subscribe to the channel, be here, join us. And as always, questions and comments below this video. Let me know how I can help. Let me know what's up for you. Let me know how this is resonating with you. Let me know if it makes any sense at all to you, or if it doesn't, that's okay. I want to know what your experience is. I care about it. So let me know. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.